Do you know what time it is? It's time for the entree. It's about time for the entree. So, let's talk about some of the ingredients for the sauce for the red bell pepper coulis. Over here on the counter, we've got extra virgin olive oil, some garlic, shallots, red bell pepper, some, in this case, chicken stock, but it could certainly be vegetable stock or water. Either one works fine. Salt and pepper. Now, these are all going to go into one pan at varying stages, but we're going to start with the olive oil. Now, it may seem like an awful lot of olive oil. I think it's 2 ounces. But we want the olive oil to actually be part of the dish and part of the flavor, not just a cooking medium. So that goes in the pan. That goes in the sink. I think on the recipe I said, 2 shallots and 2 cloves of garlic. These were pretty small cloves, so I've got about maybe 3 or 4 smaller cloves of garlic. So it's at your discretion. So right now I've got it on high. I want to start it on high, and then we can adjust the heat downward as we move along. So shallots can go in, and then we'll put the garlic in right behind that. We're going to sweat this down for at least a couple of minutes. We're trying to soften up the vegetables. One thing we don't want to do is we don't want to burn the garlic, because then it becomes definitely too bitter. So, and now we can start hearing a little bit of sizzle. You hear that? Sizzle. So we can kind of start the clock right now at say 2 minutes. The red bell pepper coulis is kind of just a fancy word for saying a red bell pepper puree. So we could use, well, in this case we're using fresh red bell pepper, but we could have, at first we could have actually roasted those off in the oven. We could have taken the skins off. We could have taken the whole bell peppers and we could have put them over a fire, right? We could have taken the whole bell pepper, put it over an open fire and roast it and char it, and then take the skin off and get a different flavor. And of course, you can always use some jarred or canned roasted red bell peppers also. Not the end of the world. You're going to definitely get a similar flavor, but I do suggest that you definitely use some fresh cut garlic and some fresh cut shallots. If you don't have shallots or can't find shallots, you can certainly use some red onion. God, it smells great. When doesn't that smell good? And you've got onions and garlic sweating off in some extra virgin olive oil. So I think what I mentioned earlier, when we were actually at the end of the dessert, I said, hey, we'll be right back to make the entree. That seems a little disjointed. So we decided to do the dessert first, and to kind of illustrate that you can make the dessert up at least a couple of days ahead of time. Then we can come back and do the entree. This is what we're doing right now. So that's looking pretty good. Again, it may seem like it's swimming in the olive oil, but this is definitely going to be part of the dish. So let's take the bell peppers, and we'll add the bell peppers to this mixture right here. We're still on high heat, and we're still getting a lot more of that sizzle. I wouldn't mind getting maybe a little bit of color on the bell peppers. Now is not a bad idea to introduce a little bit of salt and pepper. A good pinch of salt. Freshly cracked black pepper is good, but if you've got some already in the shaker, that's fine also. We're going to certainly taste this after we've pureed this mixture. You can also do this with either a combination of bell peppers. You can do it with some yellow bell peppers also. It also makes for a nice sauce. You are going to have extra. There's no way that this is going to be used up for the 2 dishes that you're making this Sunday. But the extra definitely goes great with eggs or chicken. and we'll talk about chicken or fish for this particular dinner. It will go great with a pork chop. Like I said, omelets, fantastic sauce for omelets. Or just use as a dip. Okay, so the bell peppers are starting to soften a little bit. Not a lot of color going on here, but they're definitely starting to soften, which is good. I think maybe in another 15 or 20 seconds, we'll let this go. We'll introduce the stock. And the recipe, I think I put down a cup. We'll start with a cup or maybe a cup and a quarter, and then we can always add to it if we need to add to it as this cooks down. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. So adding the stock. The peppers are going to release some more liquid, and that's fine. So I'm going to take this lid, this extra fancy highfalutin lid right here, put it over the top once it comes to a boil, and then I'll drop it down to a simmer, and I would imagine within the next, say, 7 or 8 minutes, those bell peppers will definitely be soft enough that we can puree. And at that point, we'll definitely taste for the seasoning. Okay. So that's simmering. We're going to turn down the heat to low, and we'll put that on top, and we'll come back in about 7 minutes or so. See you then.